Hang on a minute, what movie are we covering today again?
The Monkey Chain!
No, that's not it.
The Monkey's Fist!
No, not that one either.
The Monkey!
Hey, that's the right one. Is The Monkey the brutal splatterfest we all were promised, or does it have something else to offer? Well, let's get into it. Hey everybody, I'm KillJoy Jake, and instead of having friends, I have horror movies. The Monkey is a new adaptation of the Stephen King short story found in one of his most famous collections, Skeleton Crew. Let me just go grab it. This one right here. The Monkey, as well as The Mist, The Jaunt, and The Raft can all be found in this bad boy. It's an excellent read, especially right before you see this new movie. The plot description of the film reads, when twin brothers find a mysterious wind-up monkey, a series of outrageous deaths tears the family apart. 25 years later, the monkey begins a new killing spree, forcing the estranged siblings to confront the cursed toy. The short story is way more grounded than the movie I just saw last night, and oh my god, that is my first very big positive about the Perkins flick. Perkins took this pretty typical Poe-inspired cursed object story and made it into something that feels larger than life. Had you just made an adaptation that was a one-to-one with this short story, where the climax is nothing more than a little rowboat capsizing, I just don't think that would have been as exciting as what we actually got. We'll compare and contrast the third act of the short story as well as the movie in just a moment here though. Everything about this movie is outrageous, from the plot to the dialogue, and of course, the kills. They're set up in a very similar way to that of a Final Destination film. They're elaborate mousetrap-feeling deaths where the tension is built by seeing it all slowly unfold. Unfortunately though, this film does share a common issue I have with most of the Final Destination movies, that being a lot of the kills are done digitally without some sort of practical element. Just like the Terrifier series, The Monkey has marketed itself by teasing all of the over-the-top kills. When most of them don't even have a practical element, that just seems like something that should have been prioritized before cameras were even rolling. In the Monkey's defense, there are some kills you simply could not have done in camera. There's one involving bees, for instance, that I loved. But then there's a decapitation scene that kind of made me roll my eyes. Unfortunately, this film does end up being hit or miss with a lot of the kills, but there are many standouts. I thought that was going to be the strongest element of this movie, but surprisingly, it's the character work. I was pretty blown away by this film, mostly being about a struggling relationship between father and son. It's done really well, and I think that Theo James and Colin O'Brien absolutely steal the show here. I also liked that this movie is a lot more in your face about some of the personal themes from the director himself. It's similar to Longlegs in that sense, but I would say it's even more in your face than that film. Perkins lost both of his parents in very gruesome ways, but his mother unfortunately passed on one of the airplanes that crashed during the 9/11 attacks. There is definitely a meditation on that here in this flick. In a more general sense though, the monkey is just a symbol for death. I would go so far as to say that the monkey itself isn't even supernatural, it's just a reminder of the inevitable. Everybody dies, and that's fucked up. Not to get too philosophical here, but I've always thought that death gives life meaning. You have this finite amount of time to do something while you're under the sun. Life has always been about answering that question in your own unique way, and I think The Monkey hits on that in a cartoonishly morbid way. It has all the fun and campiness of a great horror B-movie, but it's also very thoughtful. I think it was Jordan Peele who said that he likes to make thoughtful popcorn movies. This is absolutely that. Alright, I want to get into some spoilery territory, so if you have not seen The Monkey yet, go check it out and then come on back. Spoilers ahead, you have been warned. To understand where the movie is coming from in maybe greater detail, I think we have to look at the short story again. Stephen King's short story bounces back and forth between Hal Shelbourne's childhood and his adult life, essentially hitting on the same themes of death but without the humor. The story is surprisingly straightforward, and I think Oz adds so much to this one with a heavy pour of the outrageous. One similarity between the short story and the film itself, though, is how in-your-face its message is. It's very clear that this monkey means death, so that addition of humor really works here, I think, just to elevate that concept. I like when horror comedy has a point in making it silly, too, and The Monkey absolutely justifies itself in that dimension. A really great example of this is literally seeing death on a pale horse right at the end of this movie. Right out of the Book of Revelation, Hal and Petey literally witness death on a white horse named Pestilence walk walking down the street. It almost kind of feels like the monkey revealing who it really is. I don't know, maybe that's a stretch, but it is a really interesting visual to cap this one off. Had this movie not had that outrageous tone, this would be totally out of place. Digging a little deeper into what I was talking about earlier about how Oz Perkins is definitely doing a little meditation on his own grief and trauma with his parents both dying in pretty awful ways, this film seems to focus especially on his mother. During a phone conversation between Hal and Bill, the characters literally say the numbers in sequence 9 and 11, and then the climax of this movie sees a plane go down after the monkey bangs its drum like 100 times. On top of the director putting a lot of his own character into this one, I loved what he did with the climax, which made it so much better than the short story. Apologies to Mr. King, but I think Oz Perkins made your story a little better here. Rowan Campbell, everyone's new favorite Halloween slasher, plays the stereotypical Stephen King troubled teenager villain here named Ricky. He reminds me a lot of Henry Bowers from It if you need an example. Ricky really wants that monkey because for some reason it reminds him of his father. Did your father perhaps lead a resistance group against the humans that experimented on him? In that case, your father is dead. He died in the third movie. Oops, spoilers. Ricky is the catalyst for a very fresh climax. That sounds gross. Ricky, that just sounds, I don't even want to repeat that. That's just funny. All right, if you made it this far into the video, you already know how this movie wraps up. But let's talk a little bit about the short story that you might not know that much about. At the end of the short story, Hal and Petey decide to toss the monkey into Crystal Lake, right next to Jason, presumably, in a duffel bag filled with rocks. Petey stays ashore while Hal goes out to the deepest part of the lake. He tosses it over as he hears the cymbals banging again and the boat starts to fall apart. Hal barely makes it back to shore and reunites with Petey. There is a really funny bit at the end, however, where these headlines in the city read, "All these fish are floating up all of a sudden dead in this lake. What's going on?" The climax of the short story is cathartic, but I think the biggest reason why I like it way better here in the movie is that it's much more about acceptance rather than triumph. In the movie itself, after Bill is killed by his mother's bowling ball, which has to be like the most Final Destination death of this whole thing, Hal and Petey drive off through the carnage with the monkey in the back seat. They've accepted that they're the owners of the monkey. This is something that's just a part of their lives. That works so much better with what the message of this whole thing is. That's thematically very powerful because it doesn't matter what we do in this life, we're all going to die. I also love that this ending represents that there's no more lies between father and son anymore. They're able to rebuild their relationship on truth. I have my criticisms towards Oz Perkins flicks, but the monkey is easily the best one in my opinion. A lot of this works for me and I can't wait to see what he does next. Speaking of that, we got a teaser trailer for his next movie that comes out later this year on October 3rd called Keeper, right at the end of this flick. If you missed it, it plays after the credits. Go back and see the monkey again if you didn't see this, because it's kind of crazy. Now, we don't know much about the actual plot itself yet, but from this teaser trailer, what I've gathered is it's a bunch of different shots of these like women on dates, I think. They're like doing leisurely activities and like just a couple of shots here, and then all of a sudden they're like kidnapped and covered in blood. These characters though are always looking right at the camera, like it's maybe a character perhaps. My guess is that whoever this character is that all these women are looking at is maybe some sort of assailant kidnapping them and doing something just truly awful. The only thing we actually do know about Keeper besides its title is that it's going to be a darker trip than what we've gotten from Oz Perkins in his most recent flicks. Because let's be honest, both Longlegs and the monkey are pretty silly. This seems to be a film with a much more serious tone, and I'm really excited to get into it. There was also a brand new teaser trailer for another neon horror flick called Together. It stars Alison Brie and Dave Franco, and wow, it looks good. The plot description for this one reads, after moving to the countryside, a supernatural encounter starts to transform a couple's love, their lives, and their flesh. In the trailer itself, there's a tease at the couple literally morphing together into one being. Like, I'm sure there's gonna be some sort of brutal practical effect when we actually get into the film itself, but the only tease we got at specifically that in this new trailer was this really close-up shot of both of their eyes like nearly touching, and it almost looks like their eyelashes are like morphing together. I don't know what this movie is about to entail, but it is getting rave reviews out of Sundance from just this past January, and I am so excited for it. Supernatural body horror is like my absolute favorite genre, so I think I know I'm going to like this one. It also seems like it's some kind of strange and bizarre take on codependency based on some of the reviews that were in that trailer as well. I'll be seated day one, man. So you might have noticed that I'm wearing a pretty cool beanie in this video. You can get merch for my short film Chicken Man right now at the KillJoy Jake store. There's a beanie, there's a shirt. There's a bunch of cool stuff over there. And maybe you like Scream a little more than Chicken Man, understandably so. There's a bunch of Wes Carpenter t-shirts out there as well with a brand new, fresh design. It's got Ghostface on the sleeve and everything. It's fucking sick. I also want to thank you all for 30,000 subscribers. Oh my God, what a milestone. I appreciate you guys so much. Thank you to everyone who supports this page. Let's get to 100K next. Also, go subscribe to my horror gaming channel, GullGotha, as well, so we can hit 1,000 there soon. Thank you all again. I really enjoyed The Monkey, but what did you guys think? Let me know down in the comments below. Thank you all again for watching. Please subscribe, and as always, don't forget to kill it out there, y'all.